What's up, fam? Welcome back to the Steep Stuff Podcast. I'm your host, James Loriello, and the stoke is high for today's episode. I am so excited to bring you guys an episode with none other than Dan Kurtz. By way of the Northeast, he's like a Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine guy. Man, Dan is an amazing guy to have on the podcast. Like, it was really fun having a chat with him. We did a deep dive into the sub-ultra scene and talked a lot about where the sport's at and where the sport's going. There was a lot of hot takes there, and it was a blast to kind of dive into. For those of you who don't know, Dan is like the probably out of Iowa State, like the most highly anticipated, like highly touted prospect our sport has probably ever had on the sub-ultra scene. Like, you're talking about someone with such talent coming from the tracks onto the trails. And it's been amazing to kind of see his career like blossom over the last few years as he's, now made 3 Team USAs and represented the United States at 2 Worlds, both in Chiang Mai as well as Innsbruck, which was pretty crazy. We dove pretty deep into that. We talked about, the pressure to perform as well as the pressure to kind of make another Worlds team this year and to continue to produce. We did talk about, his race back in 2023 at the Sunapee Scramble, where he took the dub and cemented his place to go over and represent Team USA at Innsbruck in the Mountain Classic. I kind of refer always to Dan as like the master of the Mountain Classic, which is my favorite distance, my favorite style of racing. It's kind of like that Cirque Series up down where it's like, throw yourself up a mountain as hard as you can and throw yourself off that mountain as hard as you can. It's a really fun style. But we didn't just talk about that. We talked about Thailand. We talked about, some of the UTMB by Thailand UTMB races, that Dan had raced in the past few years, coming off of, small injury from there and what it's like to train in the Northeast versus like a place like Boulder, things like that. So yeah, this was an awesome conversation. I honestly had a blast. This one lasted almost 2 hours and I am so excited. We could have made this 4 hours. So I'm stoked for part 2. So guys, without further ado, I hope you enjoy this one. Really have a lot of respect and admiration for someone like Dan. That's he's competing at like the pinnacle of our sport and just a really cool guy. So enjoy this one.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are live.
People, Earth, listen up. It is March, guys, and I am so excited that Ultimate Direction is finally unveiling their new vest lineup for 2025. Head on over to ultimatedirection.com to check out the new Race Vest 6-liter and Ultra Vest 12-liter. They're going to be coming at you in 2 beautiful aesthetic colors, the onyx and green, as well as the white and blue. Guys, I absolutely love these. I've been playing around in these products for months and months now. You might have seen Tara Warren last year running in both the Ultra and Race Vest as she absolutely smashed it in the Rocky Mountain Slam. Guys, this is a very durable, solid product that I absolutely love. Like I said, the color wheels are beautiful, and this is something I think you're going to be really looking at as you start to put together your race calendars. You're going to need some dependable gear for 2025. So this is definitely something to turn your head toward. Hop on ultimatedirection.com right now. Use code SteepStuffPod for 25% off your cart. Again, like I said, use code SteepStuffPod. Treat yourself to one of these. I think you guys are going to love them. I'd love to hear your feedback. Let me know what you think. Enjoy. Dan Curtz, welcome to the Steep Stuff Podcast. How's it going, man?
Good. Yeah. Thank you very much for having me.
Good, man. Yeah, I appreciate it. I'm stoked that we were able to finally get this conversation going. I've listened to, probably both Trail T episodes and like quite a few of the episodes that you've been on with Finn, and I was just like, I have to get this guy on to come talk sub ultra. So I'm glad we're able to do this. Finally have a convo. So
Yeah, very, very glad to be on here. Obviously I love Finn, and we need to have another Trail T episode at some point, but
yeah, you got to tell him to bring it back, man. I almost DM'd him the other day telling him to like, what happened? Bring it back, get it going.
it's always, everyone's schedule is always weird, and then Jack's always somewhere odd in a van, and everyone's just busy.
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. How's your winter going, man? How's training? How's life?
Everything's been I guess full honesty, it's been a bit of a weird winter. Broke my toe in Thailand,
Oh shit.
and since then, it's been, I figured it would be a couple weeks. I had wanted to take a good downtime post Thailand, because I was kind of reflecting and realized I hadn't really had a genuine downtime in quite a long time. Um, Also, that was somewhat influenced by a podcast I'd listened to about just recovery and training and stuff. So wanted to take a good bit of downtime, and realized after a little bit the toe was still pretty jacked up, still very, very swollen after, walking around even. So give it a little more time. And honestly, I've only now just done my first workout. And it was like a baby workout. But just been skiing. I'm pretty horrible at skiing, but we have really good ski access, I guess. I can, I could get on snow right out the yard and head out for cross country skiing. And so that's pretty good. But that biking and getting back into running. I've run every day now for the last little bit, but
Nice. Let's talk toe, man. Which one did you break? Like an important one or a not so important one?
yeah, second toe on my right foot.
Okay. Ouch.
And I guess I haven't. Yeah, I guess easy to say I broke it. I would be very surprised if I didn't. I've broken a toe before, and this seems exactly the same. It was huge and purple afterwards, and
What'd you do? Kick a rock during the race, or like fall
yeah, it
off,
was
or-
kicked a rope thing.
Okay.
But yeah, it's been all right. It's been all right. I think the thing that worries me with something like that is just being an idiot and running through something that you shouldn't, and
Yeah.
then having a navicular stress fracture that is going to take you out for the next year. So just trying to play that smart and remember that probably what I need to work on most is just general aerobic stuff. I guess I don't feel like I'm losing a ton of time from like stuff like running economy on the trails.
Yeah. No, that's fair. Dude, what was your experience like at Thailand? Like I've only known a couple athletes go and do some of the more longer stuff, like the 100-mile and 100K
Yeah.
races. But like you ran, what was it, the 50K? Like what was that
Yeah.
experience like? How was the course? Like what'd you think?
It was interesting. So that was my third time in Chiang Mai now. Worlds was there, and then I did this event last year. It's kind of nice because it's right at the end of the year. The last 2 years I've had a travel budget to kind of use up at the end of the year, and then I was also excited this year to bump up and try see what 50K is kind of like. So the trip was great. I also, it was like a bit of a just end of year. I don't know, like had a breakup in the fall, and then was just kind of like, what's going on? And yeah, so went out to Thailand for like 3 weeks to kind of just get away from everything and be out there. And the last couple of years I've really kicked myself because I don't know how to drive a motorcycle, but everyone's out there riding a motorcycle or moped or something. And this year I was like, screw it, like I'm just gonna teach myself how once I get out there and be able to actually go see the course and see the town and bop around and have some freedom. It's fantastic. Yeah, it was unbelievably fun. Got to actually see the whole course. well, most of the course. The very back section is definitely tough to get to. And then the course was great. I really liked it. Really,
Bugs? Any bugs like lots of spiders and shit?
oh my God. Yeah. There was one day I saw 9 spiders bigger than my phone.
Yeah, no way, dude. Oh my god.
Like horrifying. There's a bunch of really cool bugs. And I mean, it's like I'm from Maine. I feel like it couldn't be much different than Thailand. It's just such a different everything. I'm like not super good when it's that sunny. I'm not super good when it's that hot. Everything's so different. But I really liked it. Yeah, crazy bugs everywhere. You're always they have like, they have king cobras, they have, tarantulas, they have scorpions, they have Asian water monitors, or at least like more southern Thailand. And those get to be, like 9 feet long. They're like
It's like a
just
small
crazy.
Komodo dragon. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the second largest lizard in the world. It's basically looks just like a Komodo dragon. It's just slightly smaller.
It's so crazy.
So yeah, it was really cool. Couple weird bug things I guess did happen. Like in the race, I realized I was one of my bottles kept being super spicy, and I was like, "What have I done with this? Like, I don't think I got anything on it." And I realized it was these ants that were crawling on the bottle, right? Because it's like all sugary, so the ants were all over the bottle. I guess they like will drop from trees and stuff.
Oh, wow.
And I was just like munching ants for a while apparently.
That's good. Venomous ants or just like normal ants? Like what was it like? Did you get
I didn't do any on course ID, but yeah, it was interesting. And they were like, but the only sensation I was getting was like spicy. So like not super spicy, but just like something there. And yeah, it's weird because you start, I don't know when did we start? 5, and sunrise was like 6:40. The first like long chunk of the race. You're in the jungle before sunrise.
Wow, that's interesting. Different for a
Yeah.
50K too. Like that's a very early start for 50K. Jesus.
I think there was quite a bit of climbing, and so people definitely take along. I don't remember the exact stats on the course now because they changed the course last minute like 4 times. But there's a ton of people that go and do it. So I think for general public that makes more sense maybe. I was stoked about it because it made the race cooler.
Yeah. Do you think you'll take another crack at it, or you think you're done with Thailand?
I mean, yeah, I guess at this point I don't have a real need to go back. I've really wished that race had gone slightly differently, but I know Chiang Mai at this point. I know the area. I'd love to go do a similar concept of thing, like a far flung, not off season race, but something where it's kind of a different focal point than the rest of the season. I'd love to do something like that, but yeah.
Yeah, no, it's sweet. I mean, dude, with travel budget, I feel like you can just go, there's like the world's your, you can go do whatever you want and go find, new places to go explore. So yeah, I don't know. It's interesting.
I think it's just been an interesting mix of, and I mean, honestly, like I just didn't do a great job with my travel budget last year. Like I didn't, ask for reimbursement for a handful of things that I could have. But I don't know. It's like, I'm fine spending money to go to races. That's like, funding the thing that I want to be doing is totally fine with me.
Yeah. Doing what you love.
So yeah, I think the year before I definitely had travel budget because I dealt with like long COVID and just couldn't train or anything. So that one I definitely had travel budget left over.
Interesting. Well, dude, I think a lot of people know who you are in the sport. I mean, you've definitely been like one of the most accomplished, like well-known prospects to enter the sport in the last few years. First team All-American, like, amazing success both at the high school level and at the collegiate level. Maybe if you wouldn't mind, just give me like the 5-minute elevator pitch of your background, so that way we can get that to the audience, and then I'll move on to start talking about other things.
Where do you want me stopping?
Stop when we get to Brooks. Actually, no. Stop just before Brooks.
Cool. Yeah. So grew up in Ellsworth, Maine. My family lived in closer to New Hampshire when I was born, but there was not a hospital there. So I was born in New Hampshire, but we lived in Maine. So I don't know if that allows me to truly be a Mainer, but I can also claim New Hampshire, so I'm good with that. My parents divorced when I was young, and then my mom, little brother, and I moved up to Ellsworth. And uh, yeah, I guess things were definitely challenging. Things were tough, but then ended up finding running, and for me, that definitely um, was a place to focus too much energy. So that very quickly, I mean, in middle school, that became fully like the compass heading, I guess. Um, I had I was really, really lucky. My uncle was a great high school coach. He had a handful of really, really great athletes he'd coached. Louis Lucchini was really important in my life. Is And so he ran at my high school, really small town, like 5,000 people, maybe 7,000 now. And ran at Stanford and then ran professionally. And so that was kind of my vision. I was like, I don't know. I guess that's a way to get to college. It's a way to go do things that isn't here. Um, and just glommed onto that and fully decided that, at least verbally, in sixth grade. Um, but just kept plugging away at that. And you kind of knew in high school what you had to do to, get a scholarship to run Division 1. And then um, ended up doing those things, and went to Iowa State. That was where I chose to go. I was really lucky to have pretty much pick of places to go, and got a full ride. And Iowa State was just a bizarre training program. It would, I don't know, it would take a very long time to explain, but workouts, I would say, weren't workouts. It was not that we were training hard. We weren't training high volume. The like Kenyan team was separated from like the American kids team. It was very bizarre. Would definitely get into it more if that's of interest, but basically spent all of college really kind of struggling with running. Things were going like pretty shit, but I was like talented enough to kind of eke out solid performances every once in a while. But yeah, college was just bad, and I think definitely tested my relationship with running. I mean, I came in with a class of really, really, really good athletes, and no one stayed at the program except for me. The same is true of the next several classes, except for one kid who's the athletic director's son.
Wow.
So the program was just bad. Despite that, we did have some good successes on occasion, but um, a lot left to be desired training wise. So graduated, went home really frustrated, and just did landscaping for the summer. And in college, basically your college coach helps you line up like what group you're going to go to, well, what coach you're going to work with, like sponsorship. And he was just totally checked out. He's not coaching anymore. He was just totally done with the program. And so I was just kind of floating, and didn't know what to do. I know Andy Powell, who's the coach at Washington now. He was the coach at Oregon. The Powells are great. So I basically reached out to him. He had a small pro group. So I, packed up my car. I had a $2,000 Volkswagen Passat, a little like '03 like standard, like it was great. I loved the car, but packed everything up in that and drove out to Seattle with my cousin, and then trained out there for a handful of months, and had some really, really great workouts, but I just wasn't there. I just couldn't totally be stoked about it. Track. I loved workouts, loved doing hard workouts, but just didn't mean anything to me, like running under 4 minutes or something. Like I just didn't care, didn't really do anything for me. And then the trials were canceled for COVID, and I moved home, and then moved to New Hampshire to train with Ben True. And so this is all road track focused still, and I'm just spending time doing that. And the track stuff I was fine with as long as I was doing the workout for Ben. But when it came to like going and racing for myself, I just didn't care enough. It just wasn't like clicking. So basically ended up getting injured at the same time my dad passed away, and had like a really shitty handful of months, and just needed like a course correction. And so Loon Mountain was like the vertical champs, which is, just down the road from here, and ended up doing that. But it was that I kind of decided I wanted to try trails. It's always something I loved to do, just run in the woods and stuff, but I never had any distinction between running and trail and track and road, so I did Whiteface because it was classic champs at Whiteface one weekend, Loon the next weekend. Whiteface was insane. Like in the third mile, there was something like 16 or 1800 feet of climbing in a mile. And I was like, not ready for that. I was really fit, but not fit for that. And ended up getting in the gondola up top and coming back down. So I like also talked myself out of the race. I was just really frustrated. And Eric LaPuma was like, dude, what, you're just being an idiot. Like, do Loon next weekend. Because I was like I was like, trails suck, this is stupid, like, really bummed. So Eric's like, just do Loon next weekend, you'll do great. Like, and it went well. Got second, and then all of a sudden I was like on a couple US teams for that race. And so then that was like my first time going to anywhere that wasn't like a domestic race for a track event.
At what point, sorry to interrupt you, I'm just curious, like, at what point did you understand and start to realize that, like, okay, not only can I, like, trails are a thing, but, like, I can actually possibly make a career out of this?
Yeah, so I think I was slowly putting it together. I think in college, I was stuck in Iowa, and was just going nuts. So I would literally just sit there, like, and my coach was very, C's get degrees, like, who cares about school? Like, let's just run. That also leaves you with a horrific amount of time to focus on running. And if you're not training that much or that hard, you just have idle time. And so the whole time I was just like desperately watching anything that was like adventurous, outdoorsy. And so stuff like I got like really glommed onto like anything climbing. Anything that captured that. So then it was like, Killian YouTube videos, and it would just be on repeat. And so I kind of started getting a sense that there was this like other side of like athletic world that was more on the adventure spectrum than on the performance spectrum entirely. And I don't know, I just had like slow exposure, I guess, towards more trail stuff. And through social media, I think I saw the direction that I feel like track and field and road are going versus where trail was going. And I see trail growing, and I feel like it's much more, I don't know, you can only get so many cool videos of you training on a track. It's so lame.
It's true.
And, that was a struggle. It was like, obviously, to be a like paid athlete, a huge part of it is this media side of things. And I was like, there's no chance I want to post a video. Like, it could be the prettiest dirt road, but it's still like kind of lame to only be posting that. And yeah, I guess somewhere in there, I just kind of, something in my head clicked that it is very clearly the direction of things. It was watching Broken Arrow, I think, actually. Watching the DK with Cam and Eli and Kieran Nay, and I just knew a handful of people in there, and my training partner had just gone down and won the US champs on the road, and USATF isn't live streaming it from the truck driving in front of them. And then I'm watching a drone video of these guys running up at Palisades, and I'm like, this is obviously the direction things will go, especially with social media. So um, also it's so much more me. So yeah.
It's interesting. So, dude, growing up in the Northeast, like especially that Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine area, like there's obviously a heavy influence for mountain running. There's, I mean, not just mountain running, but skiing, like just outdoorsy culture in general.
Yeah.
I find that also interesting, like that it's just kind of slept on as an area, in my opinion. And it's kind of bizarre to me that like there's Cranmore, there's like so many solid, like legit mountain races that are in the Northeast, and like no one talks about like how solid the Northeast is. I find that weird.
It's interesting. I mean, obviously, this is gonna get me going. But I mean, it's also big. So like everyone is like, so I'm in New Hampshire right now. But in Maine, I'm like 5 hours from here. And on the coast, and it's very different. Like I'd been to Vermont one time. The New England championships for cross country my freshman year were in Vermont at Thetford. So it's just right up the road here. And I'd never been out here. I was always just like, Maine's different for sure. Like northern Maine is definitely just like a different thing. But everything is small town. I mean, Vermont, like the biggest town is Burlington, and the population is like 35,000. And Vermont has, less people than Colorado Springs. Like it's weird.
That's wild.
Yeah, it's like I think Vermont is like 620K, and I think the Springs, like obviously there's like a bit of a metro area to things, but
yeah.
Yeah, there's not a ton of people. I really like it. I love that there's winter. I love that everything's kind of rugged and a little hard. Yeah, and it seems like everywhere is good access. I can run from literally my back door here is a rail trail that goes 65 miles one way, and it's groomed ski trail right now for half of it. The other half is plowed. And if I go, any direction I can get on a trail within, it's, half a mile this way, and then a mile if I go the kind of convoluted way into like a trail system with 60 miles of trails that I could get on the AT in there and head out. Like there's a bunch of stuff. Jeff Colt is from here.
Yeah, I know Jeff.
Yeah, his dad lives just up the way.
Really? Oh, dude, I never realized that. That's kind of crazy.
Noah Williams.
Yeah.
Noah Williams. Yeah, so I did this like volunteering with Noah's mom. Whatever, she does it's kind of like a girls on the run kind of thing. But for finding our stride. So it's a weird little area. There's a lot of connections to here.
Yeah, to the trail space. That's so wild, man. So I from what I understand of your story, after you were kind of sick of the tracks, or kind of sick of the track, you came back to the Northeast to kind of start training there. What I want to understand is like, I mean, for someone like you and your caliber, like you could have had your pick, right? You could have gone to Boulder. You could have gone to Flagstaff. You could have gone, I don't know. So you could have stayed in Seattle and trained there and had, there's plenty of like training grounds that are not the Northeast. I'm just so curious as to why you chose that specific area to go back.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, right now I'm struggling with a similar concept. I think it's such a shame that more people don't train out here.
Yeah.
But also I can get some of it. It's not what I like. Like it was 4 below this morning, not, without, not factoring in wind chill, not factoring in anything. And I was working outside all day, and I was pumped because it was like 25 this afternoon and sunny, and it was like, that felt, decently warm. And like, you look at the weather in Boulder, and it's, been 65 for a handful of days. And you are like, I can see how that seems to be better training. And I think if you don't grow up out this way, it's really tough. Because I mean, you can love the winter, but it is just like long, and it doesn't get warm. If it gets 40, it's like a really warm day right now. It's been above freezing twice in the last handful of weeks. So I don't know. I'm not sure entirely what it is. I think more people should be out here. Um, the quality of like this is such a stupid one, but like dirt roads. The
Yeah.
dirt roads out here are fantastic. Um, and the trails are steep. Like there's so many things that you can find that are 1,000 feet a mile. Um, and in the summer, there's a ton of ski resorts, and so everything you get all this grassy, steep access, so it's like runnable. Um, but stuff like the shoulder seasons are tough. Like early winter is really tough because all the trails are pure ice. Like it's it's pretty hellacious. Like it's so bad. Um, but I don't know. I think that also teaches you something that has to translate to real mountain running.
Makes you gritty. That's for sure.
And I think like I guess if it's all like Eurocentric, I think that has to teach you something. I think it's probably more similar to stuff in Europe. And I think I don't know. There are races where it's snowy in Austria at Worlds last year. 2 years ago now. For this coming year, there's snow on the course. There's shit. But I think it's good. But you lose out, I think, on a bit of marketing. It seems like the market strays west of here.
Yes, where I'm kind of going with this with Brooks.
Yeah, I think it's a miss.
Big
like
time, dude.
the number of people that come up from New York, New Jersey, Boston, like these huge population centers that come up here, and you see they're always out. Yeah, so it's weird to me that like, well, Brooks, we just signed Remy,
Yep.
but him and I are the only people east of Boulder.
Just bananas. Like there's so much talent like in a lot of these areas. It's crazy to me that I asked Tom Hooper the same question, and one of the answers he gave me was shoe durability, which I think is definitely a factor. I think that's one small factor. It was like, can their shoes hold up? I think there's a lot more to the fact where like, I think these brands, for instance, like La Sportiva is a great example, like in Boulder, right? And I think and there's a good amount of brands in Boulder or in the greater Colorado area. Obviously Brooks in Seattle. And I think I wouldn't say bias of like region, but I almost think it's like bias of region just because they're there. It's local. It's easier to see these athletes. It's more, I don't know. Whereas like there's not a lot on the East Coast. What is there? I think there's Vibram in Boston, and that might be one of the few. And I think Janji in Boston as well.
There's not like New Balance and Puma. There's big Boston ties, but yeah, those aren't trail specific brands. It is weird. I don't entirely get it, and I do think there's some amount of I don't know if it just feels like it's separated a bit, and so I think it's not like checked out as much. It's not like there's something about it that seems like less sexy or something.
Yeah.
And I think that it's interesting. Yeah, I don't have it totally figured out. I would absolutely love if more people were training out here, because right now like Ben is like transitioned out of like being a professional athlete. He's coaching. He's still running 100-mile weeks and is still disgustingly fit, but I don't really have anyone I'm training with.
Well, yeah, Eric's kind of doing super long stuff, right? So it's a little bit different, I would imagine.
Eric's tough to line up with. I hope he listens to this because he's just tough to line up with. Like he's very particular on timing and how long you'll leave the house for and stuff, which I get. David Sinclair's out here now, but he's also a bit of like a loner, like lone wolf guy, like just trains on his own.
Plus his ski stuff, I think he's now in and out of Europe for which kind of makes it complicated.
Yeah. So it's interesting. If there were more people out here training, I obviously wouldn't go anywhere, and then everyone, it's always a place that people like, oh, definitely where I'm going to have kids. But I think like that mindset keeps that community from being built. And then it's not somewhere people want to stay from 25 to 35 or something.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, but I mean the density of trails and like good access and ease of stuff, like we always complain about like Jay Peak it's northern Vermont. They get dumped on. They get whatever, their whole thing is they've got more snow than like everything in Colorado and California. Like they just get dumped on all the time, but it's 2 hours away. And so we always complain about how far away it is. But then we also like, I start looking at stuff and I'm like, well, that's no farther than if you live in Boulder to go to like normal stuff. And I'm like, oh, well, we have, Killington and stuff. Like we are close to stuff. Even Boston's, 2 hours from being properly in the whites.
Which is not bad. That's amazing too. I never even thought about that.
Yeah, so it's really not bad. So I don't totally get it. There's some disconnect that I hope gets fixed at some point, but I guess hoping it gets fixed, it probably is like on Eric and I and Tom.
I've got a theory, dude. I think it's going to change sooner than you think. And the reason is because like, first of all, you see Aravaipa going by, what was it, White Mountain Endurance. So now they have a presence there. So there are races, but I think this year with the Cirque series having 2 races there, like I'm happy Julian like expanded. And I think, all right, now like real Sub Ultra has a presence there where it's like, plus you've got, Tom with Sunapee and Loon. Those are usually, either vertical or up down mountain running championships, on off years. And even last year we had Loon. So I don't know. I think the presence with Cirque series coming in, I think that's going to attract, what is that? Like 600 to 700 people a race. So if Julian usually fills those rosters anyway, you'll start to maybe turn heads. I'm curious to see I'll be out there for both of those. And I am very curious to see all right, who shows up to these? Like, is it going to be the East Coast crushers? Like, are people going to come from the West to go see what it's like out here? So I don't know. I would be really excited to see more world-class competition come out to go race at those races and make it, cause they're exciting courses. So it should be fun.
It's interesting. And I think it may be just like an issue of marketing or something. Because stuff like Mount Washington road race.
Yeah.
That's a weird crossover mountain world road race event. It's like epic, super classic, like super cool. But I think it's like fallen out of favor in the last, I don't know. I'm not a good enough historian of that race. But it seems to have fallen out of favor from what it was for a while. And I'm just curious if that's like a social media effect or what it is.
Could be.
But
did I say the same thing about pikes out here? Like I love pikes and like, but when Golden Trail Series leaves, like it becomes, I wouldn't say like it's more grassrootsy vibe, but it definitely goes back to that. Like obviously it's not going to have the elite field that like you're going to attract with the Golden Trail Series race just because it's different. So it could be social media. Plus, that's something that needs to get bolstered from a lot of these races. If you want to grow in this day and age, like social media is a huge thing. So,
yeah, I guess there's a part of me that really wants to stick around and just like, post a ton of cool videos of just, being in the mountains here. Cause I think a lot of people would be kind of surprised. Cause there's good shit.
On that topic, I meant to ask you this. I had this written down. On your Instagram, you have this one video of, was it Talon that almost fell? Somebody almost falling. Dude, it got 16 million views. Holy shit.
I think we're like almost at 17 million views. I mean, it was sketchy, but I didn't feel like it was that bad. And Talon's done that bridge a ton of times. In the snow, I've done it. The only time I'd done it was in the snow. When I was supposed to be taking off time when I was training out in Seattle. But I was like in Seattle, no winter, like looking at the mountains being like, I need to be in the snow. But yeah, so yeah, that video just blew up. I think people were pissed off that we were up there and, what they thought were, like Nike Pegasus or something. So you got like you hit that like Instagram weird world where people were like pissed off and like telling us that, hey, I hike every weekend and you guys are being idiots. It was stuff like that,
That's interesting. I mean, dude, I can't like believe the virality of it. Like that's insane. Like to see, I would imagine you would have gotten like thousands of, but what do you have, like a few thousand followers or something like that? Like I would imagine you would have gotten like 5,000 followers out of that. And I was like, all right, this changes everything I thought about the algorithm. That's so weird, but it's cool.
Yeah, it was interesting. But then it did prove to me in some way, it was like, because that was like a normal thing. But I think you end up being in a weird bubble that you go out and do these cool things that do seem super sketchy to people. And so if you were to like just post those things more often, I think it would be pretty successful with that.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Plus, like, I don't know, sub ultra scene, Northeast, there's a lot of rocky outcrop. I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of opportunity there to tell like really solid stories on like not just training, but just like everything you're doing. You know, there's a lot of opportunities there.
I really wanted, there's a couple little projects I really want to do that way. I think doing stuff, and I don't know, maybe it's this year, maybe it's next year. But stuff like Katahdin, doing like ascent and round trip, trying to go for like ascent and round trip records at Katahdin, and having some amount of video project with this, doing the same for Washington, maybe Mansfield, like the high peaks, the high points in the States,
Yeah.
Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont. Because something like Katahdin is incredibly cool. Really, really, really cool. As cool as anything in the lower 48. Like, it's sweet. But I think that would be a cool way to showcase things, to have it be like, it lends itself well to like intense and short efforts that are relatively short, right? That are rocky and, a little sketchy. And
Well, dude, you're onto something really great here. So like, this is something I talk to everybody about, and it drives me crazy because I feel like ultra does such a good job at videos and storytelling and being able to convey this like different degree of suffering. Whereas like on the sub ultra side, like I feel like, and I'll say we, because I'm, from a media perspective, like that's the area I want to take this, is like, we need to tell more stories, because it's obviously it's competitive, but in a different way. It's a faster sport. It's a different sport. Like there's a lot more to it.
Yeah.
But I think we need to do a better job at storytelling, getting ready for these races, or doing maybe these FKTs or high points or things like that are more up, down, or vertical related, where, it's a 30-minute to an hour and a half effort or something like that. Golden Trail Series nails it, like their races and their storytelling is amazing. But yeah, we need more of that, I feel like, in the sport, to be able to, make sub ultra more competitive with ultra when it comes to from a media side.
I think this is entirely my bias speaking. I think it will be. It's certainly more easily, in my opinion, it's so much easier to like craft a really sexy 15-second trail video of someone ripping on something cool. There's this one of Killian at Limon Sky Race that I think is the coolest video possible, where it's like a helicopter filming this like ridge that he's flying down. It's just so cool. But yeah, I guess, where would you think that starts?
For me, specifically, so like my baseline storytelling would be, so like, for instance, like this year, what I would like to do, and I haven't proposed this yet, this has been in the back of my mind since like for the last like 3 weeks, is getting a sponsor to help fund or just self-funding. Like, for instance, like Joe, like I'm pretty close with Joe. He's getting ready he's got a couple worlds qualify, or I think he's just going to the Ascent, right? But like a couple different like workouts that he does, and being able to tell the story of this 41-year-old guy who's been at the top of the sport for, as long as he's been, to be able, and now he's going to go for his, I don't know, like, I can't even tell you. Yeah. Like 1,000th like worlds that he's trying to qualify for. So like storytelling from that end, I think it starts with, because it, showing the father, showing the husband, showing the, everything he is just like outside, and maybe he'll listen to this. So I haven't pitched it to him yet, but like storytelling from that end, like filming a couple workouts and getting clips of that. And then like some of the key things, like the key peaks as he starts to get more specific, getting ready for the race. And then, maybe we'll be at Broken Arrow and we'll get some clips of whatever that turns out to be like, right? And then putting together like a short film. And I think something like that specifically for him. And then for somebody like you, it's just as easy, dude. Like the grind, the struggle, the process through, especially through the winter, and how horrible that feels, to be able to have to go get your ass out the door every day, especially with a broken toe. And then, kind of taking that one step further into the spring as you get ready for Sunapee and those other goals, I guess you'll go out, if you want to get more specific, you'll go out and play on the course a bit. And I don't know, like little things like that. And then race day and what that looks like. I just think there's so many opportunities to really convey in a positive, like exciting way these stories and like what these athletes are getting ready for. And, all that, like, dude, and the day to day too, man, like time in the gym, it's not just spending time on the trails and running. It's like, what are you doing for your diet? Are you eating correctly? Like there's so many little things that go into it that you can like kind of spin off,
I think I do a poor job of that. I would love to, and I have a ton of ideas on it, and then I just like I haven't done like the follow through with posting it, because posting is just so tough.
It's a lot of work, man, to do all that stuff. Like,
but I'm also sitting on freaking hundreds of hours of video that I've taken on my GoPro and stuff.
Oh, wow.
That I just don't do anything with, because it's like you look at it and then you're like, it's not great, and then you're like, I'm not posting it. I wasn't going to post that video of Talon at all, and he was like, I'm about to post it. If you don't post it, I'm going to. He's like, just put it up. I was like, okay, whatever.
Sure as shit, it gets 17 million views. That's so crazy.
I mean, it has like, I don't remember what it was, but it was like 400,000 shares, like some bizarre, I guess I have it here.
To even piggyback on that too, like, dude, like even the sexy stuff as well. Like, look at that photo finish between El Hussein and Philemon. I think it was Philemon or Patrick cool. At the end of like Headlands. Like, that's crazy.
Oh, that was Philemon. Yeah.
Was it Philemon? Yeah. So like shit like that I think just like there's just a lot of, and or even dude, like at Mammoth, like there was the whole controversy thing with El Hussein kind of edging.
And that was Patrick
at the end. Yeah. And I was like, God damn, like this is so crazy. So there's just like all these different, and you can even create storylines around that too. Like I know because Tim Tollefson, I think he was pretty funny in the comments. He's like, I hate to be the race director of that. Like,
yeah, that was funny. I remember seeing that. You're right. And I think now, like thinking about it, it's just, I think you like end up being so much in your own bubble that you forget that you're doing a weird thing. And then like, I think there's like a certain ego to posting that you're like, what I'm doing is special and cool, and I need to post about it. And then I'm thinking the exact opposite. Usually I'm like, oh my God, what this person's doing is so special and cool. And it's not me. But then I guess I do, like, if I'm thinking about it before, once it's in the summer, like I really like going to Whaleback. It's this little local ski resort right here. It's 5-minute drive from the house, and they have this lift line that's right from the parking lot. You go up and it's just like this 700-foot pitch that's like so steep. And I would just, and it's like 4-foot deep ferns, 5 feet deep. Like it's just
Jesus,
hilarious. But then I would just walk up and I would go in the rain, because I was like, I want this to be stupid. Like I want this to be really hard. So I'm going to hike up and I'm just going to try to see if I can just run down. And I'm just going to do that for a handful of laps, like in the rain, where it's like, it's impossible. It's impossible to do. So stuff like that, I guess that is weird and would probably be a kind of cool little video. But
dude, and I talk about this a lot. I think there's not a lot of people like Rachel Tomjiak, I think in her own way does it really well.
Yeah, she started doing a good job. I totally agree.
Yeah, and like there's not that like, and maybe Ali Ostrander is another example where it's more, but I think it's become more of the borderline influencer thing. It's weird though, dude, because like as an athlete, it's like, yeah, your job is somewhat social media, but like your job is to also train your ass off and show up to events and perform to the best you possibly can.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know, it's this weird dichotomy where I don't know, like I can see myself and you get so focused on the goal and what you want to do, and that's performance related, where it's like, I also feel from my perspective, like if I'm trying to convey a story, sometimes it's hard because you also don't want to come across like, oh, am I just making this all about me? Am I being grandiose? Like how, like I don't want people to, you don't want to be judged in a weird way, which I think that's probably shouldn't be thought about, but it's kind of a strange thing thinking about it from the social media perspective too. Whereas like, if you just tell the story the right way, that's your organic story, I think it could be like really popular, especially like I said, from the sub ultra side, to be able to tell it. It's cool stuff.
Yeah. And I mean, the people that do really well on social media do kind of have a bit of that ego. It seems like that's a positive correlation with being able to do well on Instagram. I don't know. It is interesting.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, it's weird because it is your job. Like you're totally right. Like that is a big part of the job. Like you have to show up. I think the weird thing that happens with that I have seen for myself and a couple other people is you follow like your peers
Yeah.
and then people that are doing shit that you wish you were doing as well.
Yeah.
And so then you're in this bubble of this like bizarre spot where everything you see on Instagram is like the weirdest 40 people that are doing all weird stuff that is better than you or as good as you, and you're like, you become like convinced of, you know, what you're doing is just super normal, and like why would you ever post about like that dinky little workout I'm talking about
Yeah.
because someone's doing something gnarlier.
On that topic, did you know who's got a great YouTube channel is actually Remy LaRue. Like I just had him on the other day, and
he's great.
Getting ready for the episode, and I stumbled upon his yeah, dude, I stumbled upon his YouTube channel. I was like, oh my God, like this is amazing. Like this is the storytelling we need more of. And he's like pretty candid with like being open about some of the workouts that he does. He's even like gone to a few races and like has like this epic battle at breakneck between like Max and
David Hedges. Yeah.
It's so good. So yeah, I think there's definitely a space for it. But it's interesting that like who you follow and who you're around and who you're influenced by, I think influences like some of your take on it too as well.
So, yeah, and then like my buddy here, my one of my best friends here is Ansel Dickey, who made that Walmsley.
Oh, yeah.
Like he lives just down the road. Like you know, it's like stuff like that. It's like you just start existing in like this weird bubble. And so then anything like I have a couple videos on YouTube now, and I do want to. I very much want to build that out this year. I feel like I'm deferring it a bit and like putting it off, but I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to post a video. Like Ansel's going to go watch that and he's going to be like, what is this? And I'm like, well, yeah, I suck at this compared to Ansel, obviously, or most people to be fair, but yeah, it's weird. The self-doubt.
I can get that from a podcasting perspective too, dude. Like I've asked Finn a couple questions and I'm like, this is a really dumb question, but I need to know like what do I do here? Like, what is this? I don't know. Yeah. But there's only one way to learn and there's only one way to improve, right? It's like anything. So
yeah. It's interesting. I can do a good job on that when it's just me. Like I'm doing a bunch of stuff right now in the van. Today I, had to replace all the glow plug connectors, which I have no idea how to do.
That's impressive.
But you just like go through it slowly and like, you snip all the cables, you rip off all the connectors, you like do all these, like, it's all simple stuff. It's just like going in, having no idea how to do it. I'm fine like messing up solo, but like feeling like you're messing up publicly is another one that I just struggle with.
Let's talk van. So like, are you outfitting the van to like go all over the country this year? Like what's your plan with the van?
Yeah, that's the goal. The last 2 years I've had an 85 like diesel van, and it's old. And the first thing I did was when I bought it was I drove it up to Maine, was up there for a week, soldered in a little like faucet, put in a little sink, like got in like some basic stuff. But it's just so much work. It was so much work to do like all the little maintenance stuff. And we drove it right out to Flagstaff, spent the winter out in Flag in New Mexico up at Santa Fe, and then drove it back for that Sunapee championship. And it was great, but I was out of the van with my buddy, and like you had to cook like on your knees. Like you couldn't stand in the van at all. It was just like way too small. It was like not great. I had a bunch of shit go wrong all the time with it because I didn't know what I was doing. But I really wanted to be doing it. And so I was just kind of going and trying. But, everything went wrong that could have. And so now I bought a van, got a really good deal on a, old '07 Sprinter.
Nice.
I can stand up in it, put a bed in it, put some cabinets in there, did the flooring, did the insulation. And now I'm doing some mechanical stuff. The hood's open right now and I've got the turbo intake all apart and I'm trying to put in whatever, so doing some of that stuff. That's been most of the days, and hopefully get out to Colorado this weekend.
Oh shit, really?
train out there for a couple weeks. Yeah. And then I'm planning on racing Big Alta,
Okay.
like the 25K.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's in 3 weeks, in 20 days actually from today. Um, and yeah, so that's the goal. Basically, start bouncing around out of that. And yeah, ideally have this for a handful of years. Just spent a bunch of money getting it fixed up, and so now I have no money, and I'm gonna have to live really cheaply.
Nice. Hey, dude, I feel your pain. I just bought a house, and yep, sucks being broke. Not that fun.
So I'm gonna definitely have to. I hope it's less tight than 2 years ago. Basically, I went into Sunapee, and if I didn't win, I was pretty hosed, um, like entirely hosed. So yeah, hopefully not go that thin this year.
Okay. All right. Let's talk. I want to get into well, you kind of already told. I was going to ask you about the Big Alta, especially like with that coming up. It's only in a few weeks. I'm sure like that's going to be a sweet race. That area is beautiful. I know you're on the start list for Sunapee as well, but like, what do you got planned for the rest of the season?
Yeah. So definitely that Sunapee Cannon double. I think that's awesome.
Sweet.
My cousin's getting married on the day of the Killington race
Damn it.
up in Maine, so I'm trying to see if I can do the Killington race. I don't know what's the start time. If it's like an 8 a.m. race,
No, it's 10. It's 10.
Yeah, 10 done at 11.
You could do it. Yeah. I mean, it's a fast race. I mean, it'd probably be take less than an hour or an hour on the dot.
Yeah. So I'm gonna have to really see on timing on that, and then what timing the wedding is and stuff. I'd love to be there and then drive up to Maine, but I can't miss the wedding. So, yeah, the early season basically that's what I want to do through June.
So you're not going to Broken Arrow this year?
No, it's kind of a weird I have a bit of a gripe with a selection race being at altitude.
Okay. No, I agree. I agree with you.
I think that's a weird move. The world isn't at altitude. What's the thing? And so that I'm a little against, and but also like I don't know. I much prefer the classic race. I don't really have any interest in vertical races, and I think I'd like to graduate maybe towards. I was really thinking about doing the 42K, attempting the short trail team for Worlds.
Okay.
It doesn't line up in a way that makes sense for me to do. I think to be ready to rock, because you're gonna have to be so good to make the Worlds team this year.
It's gonna be disgusting.
Yeah, I mean you can start naming the long, the short, the vertical, the classic. Like you're like, oh, okay, yeah, it's pretty serious. Really, really, really good people aren't going. And so, yeah, I can't go out to Broken Arrow, not adjusted for altitude, because I would sacrifice the classic race that way. And the classic race is more important to me. If the race was a different place, if the race was out here for the qualifier, I would do the double, and see what happens. But I think it just weighing things out, I think it didn't make as much sense.
I agree with you, man. I think your background and everything like that, especially living so like not that far away, like you can get reps on the Sunapee course. I don't know. I just feel like you could do all of the little things to ensure yourself a spot on that Sunapee course, to ensure yourself a spot like on that team, as opposed to, so for instance, like Christian's got to come out from Utah. He's probably not going to come out early. Yes, the altitude like might help him a little bit, but like power generation, there's a lot more to it. And also knowing that course so well, and if it's a matter of a few seconds, like however quick, like close that race is going to be, it definitely helps to be on your side, to be out there more, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, Sunapee is, I don't know.
You've had success out there too. And,
well, it's also like, I mean, it's literally like 2 or 3 exits down the highway.
Yeah.
It's really close. So I don't know. Sunapee also, it just means something to me. I love that it's out here. I think like the earlier points of like there's less focus out here. It's like Yeah, I wish people had come to that Kismet Cliff race last year. I wish Christian came out for something like that, like a half marathon with, you know, not a bunch of climbing, but all of it's super technical. It was like a half marathon with like 4,500 feet, and it's all really technical. Uh, I think I ran super quick. I don't know. Maybe I didn't, but I wish people came out for that stuff.
I know. I feel the same way, dude. Like more competition in these races, like would make, I don't know, like the only thing you could do is open your mouth and like try and invite people. I don't know.
Yeah.
try to,
Um,
try
and I mean, Sunapee, that's just going to happen. And obviously, I want someone like Christian to come out anyway because I hope to be on the team and I want that team to be as good as possible.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah.
So stuff like that, I'm pumped for. I do like the 2-lap concept.
Yes. Yes.
I don't know why, but I think I've found decent success at that. I think the race I did up in Canada, the Canadian champs for it this year, um, was solid because it was that same idea. Um, so yeah, I'm pumped for that race. That's kind of like a lot of the focus. And then I want to do like ETC.
Yeah. Okay. Sweet.
I want to be out there just to be out there. Um, and then I want to just figure out the schedule's tough. The schedule's tough, man. Like I'm not good to go to race the Golden Trail stuff yet in Asia.
Yeah.
I have my own personal gripes about Golden Trail. I wish there's more doping control. I wish there's.
Oh, I got that written down. We're gonna get to doping control.
Yeah, all right. We can loop back to that, but yeah, still trying to figure out like the second half of the season. But the big goals are making the world team and showing up in Spain, and hopefully, getting closer to where I feel like I should be.
Let me ask you a question, and you can answer this as candidly as you'd like. If not, I can cut this out. I'm just curious for someone like at your level, just because like you are at the tip of the spear, and you've made now what? You went to Thailand, you went to Innsbruck, and was it Challenge Stellina? You also raced for Team USA at?
Yeah.
So like you've represented the Stars and Stripes for a while now. Do you feel pressure to like have to make this one happen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a race. There's always pressure. To I mean, hell, there was I felt there was so much pressure when the race was at Sunapee. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of pressure in my head.
Okay.
I think that's great.
I mean, shit, you did it at Sunapee, so like you can do it. So that's
yeah.
Answers your own question there.
but yeah, like I think there was certain parts of that course that helped me a lot on that day. Like icy and snowy up high, and then like really muddy and funky in the descent. And I had been out in Flagstaff intentionally just running on the dumbest things I could every day because I knew the race was going to be messed up because my buddy Matt was skiing there and he was like, dude, the race is in 2 weeks and I'm skiing glades at Sunapee. Like there's a ton of snow. I don't know how this is not going to be really messed up. So like, okay, cool. Like, so I'm going to go up to Snow Bowl every day and just run in the snow. I did one workout where I was doing like uphill reps and then I was supposed to do like 2 downhill reps, and the one downhill rep, I don't remember what it was. It was a mile and it was a 2K rep that I did under 5 minutes coming back down. It was like 356 average on the ski hill. It was so stupid. And my hamstrings were destroyed for 3 days. But yeah.
Nice.
I was definitely in my head about that because it was Sunapee and like it's here. I live right here and I feel like that's the event I'm good at. And so it's like, yeah, definitely pressure.
Dude, I can't wait to follow the race. Like I don't know if I'm going to be racing or being there. Like I'll be there, but I don't know if it's going to be in a racing capacity or in a media capacity. Probably more media, just because I feel like this race deserves the coverage that it needs to get. So doing justice on that end, like, is really important to me. So yeah, I don't know. It's going to be, I'm excited for just like I said, the men's field is pretty stacked. The women's field's growing. Like it's going to be, Sunapee's going to be dope.
I mean, you start putting together the women's race too. It's like Rachel Tomacek, Grayson Murphy, Allie M, Allie O, Anna, Lauren. Like there's a
It's bananas. Yeah.
You can name a bunch of really, really good people that should make the team, and they can't all make the team.
Let me ask you this. I should know this. Is it 2 spots that come out of Sunapee on two men, 2 women, and then the rest of it's resume, or is it
This is horrible, and I hope you.
I don't know.
Get it out, but I think Tom
told me, and I totally forgot
the other day. He said top 4 to me in passing, which didn't sound right.
No. Maybe.
The team has been 3, but Thailand was weird because Joe was a returning world champ.
Yep.
So there's like weird stuff that way. I'd assume we get 3 spots and an alternate. We have to have like an alternate, but usually the way that we do that is we pull from the vertical team because they usually are crossed over.
Right.
But then there's people who aren't a great alternate for a classic team who would make a vertical team.
I mean, this is really speaking out of my ass, but like, let's say your vertical team, I don't know.
Someone
Let's
like
say
Cam
Joe.
Smith.
Yeah, Cam Smith, Joe.
I love
Jim.
Cam Smith, but if it's a fast classic race, he's not as good as he is at a vertical race.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's possible at the classic race he could get 6th. I don't know.
Yeah.
Whereas I'd say it's entirely likely he wins outright in the vertical race. And like, I mean, same with me. Like, I feel like I'm better at the classic race, but I might not be that good in the vertical race. They're not one for one. They select for different things.
Right.
So yeah, it's interesting. Like, I mean, freaking, there's a bunch of examples like that. So I'm sorry for kind of calling out Cam. I love Cam.
No. I think you're spot on. And to that point, I mean, who knows what's going to happen with, I mean, the point I was going to make too, and I was going to wait to make this until I do my predictions, like when I actually do the prediction like thing down the line. But like David Sinclair, Cam, a lot of these guys are coming off schemo seasons where it's Olympic selection year. So it's like, how does that play into it? Are these guys going to be racing schemo like late into the season? And like,
yeah, super interesting.
Yeah, I don't know how that's going to play into it. So I don't know. I mean, we all know like Cam shows up to play. Obviously, David Sinclair does too. So it's going to be.
It's really interesting for something like the vertical race where it's like, I don't know how negatively that would impact you. Like if you're a really good skier, you're going to carry in a ton of fitness, and it's an uphill race. You don't need to be fast, like on a flat run. Like when we were in Thailand, the race was going to go out really quick, and we were talking about who was going to be on the classic team, and Cam was like, yeah, I mean, I don't know if I could run a mile under 5 minutes right now.
Interesting.
But in the vertical race, he's gonna be freaking great. He's really good at that. But it's just it'll be really cool, I think, in like 3 worlds teams from now, because I think those teams will be even more different.
Yeah.
Because a guy who is really nasty at climbing is probably not as good at descending as he is climbing.
Yeah, it's more specialization for sure. And you're starting to see it. Like, I'm sure you knew who like Henry Alamond is. Like I think he's a North Face athlete. Dude, that guy is so nasty in the VK. Won the KMV this past year, top 5 time, like all time on the segment. I can't remember what time he ran, but like you could say he's a pure VK specialist, like pure uphill specialist.
Definitely his strength. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting as we start to see like more specialization in that. Like even Joe, like and some of those guys, like Joe has weaknesses.
Come race Sunapee. What the heck?
Yeah, right. We should. Dude, he should be on there. I don't know why. So, all right. So this is my question, and like I said, I can cut some of the stuff out if you don't feel candid talking about it. I am so curious to see the way you think, especially without going to Broken Arrow. Well, how do you think that ascent race is going to play out? Like, dude, I think Remy Bonnet is in town, and that Golden Trail Series race is not going to be until Sunday. I would imagine he'll probably do the ascent as well. Then you get a Joe rematch.
I mean, what a power move to come like try to dominate the U.S. selection race. That's kind of, if he does that, that's a baller move.
I think he might, dude. Plus Patrick is going to be in town because it'll be a WRMA race. So you'll probably get Patrick and Philemon. It's going to be bananas. Like up front, you'll have Remy LaRue. Yeah, just like,
I mean, Remy won't go out with those guys. Remy always races really smart. I think Remy is going to lay off it. Like that race is going to be nuts.
Jim,
and I think
Jim's in there too. Like he's
Jim's in the
for
DK. Yeah. I don't know what to expect out of that.
It's gonna be bananas, like crazy.
Jim has spent more time doing steep climbs than most of the American guys. So I think that's what, like, he's gotten. I mean, he's a very, very, very good athlete, and I think he's gotten incredibly good at really steep terrain. So it's like, how do you bet against him? But how do you bet against Cam or Joe, who are probably, I guess, no. I don't know who you would pick due to the elevation.
Yeah.
Like Cam's like a smaller guy than Joe that could maybe help at altitude if it's high enough. I don't know. There's a ton of factors. I think that race is going to be, like you said, if the foreign guys are all there, it's going to go out really freaking fast, and there's going to be some big casualties.
Carnage. Yeah. Plus Mika, like your teammate, I'm sure he'll be there. Taylor Stack.
Mika's
like,
going for it for sure.
A contingent is so deep. I don't know. It's going to be, I mean, dude, there's a possibility like that might be outside of like 2023 Pikes Ascent. That might be the most competitive race ever assembled on American soil, like from an ITRA perspective. I want to pivot a little bit to Brooks, and because the question I have for you, especially with the signings they made this year, like picking up Remy, you got Taylor Stack, Sydney Peterson, like there's been quite a few signings. My question to you is Brooks the best trail, like the best sub ultra trail team on the planet right now? Because I think they are.
I think they're pretty good. I think Talon is very good. I think he hasn't had a ton of races where he's shown how good he is yet. He's super good. Mika's obviously done a good job showing how good he is. I don't know. You can start naming people, and now like I think the next couple of years it's gonna be shown a bit. I think the team we're building is really cool, and we're doing a team camp at the end of the month out in Seattle, so I'm pumped to meet all the new people. And yeah, I've really liked working with Brooks. I'm paid to say that as well, to be fair, but I have really liked them. I think the shoes the thing I was initially, when I signed on, I was a little worried about what the shoes were like. I didn't feel like there was much I would want to run in out here. But good Lord, like the trail shoes have come so far around, and now I'm like, the Agile I think is perfect for the little like US style, like classic style races. I'm really excited about it all. I think it's all they're investing a lot. I think it's all the right directions.
Sorry, no, I was just gonna say from an itcher perspective, like I haven't done the public math yet, but like I think if you were to sit down and break down itcher scores and indexes, like I do think you guys actually have the best sub ultra, like just by the numbers, the best sub ultra trail team on the planet right now. Because Solomon's pretty small now, like some brands.
Hey, what happened to Solomon?
I just did a with my good buddy. We just did a free agency episode where I asked that same question, man. It hasn't come out yet because I got to edit the shit out of it because I think I went a little too off the rails, but
want more money, and so they're going into road and track.
I think so. Yeah, it's a shame. Like there's only 14 trail athletes on that team now, like international included everybody.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a shame. Whereas like Brooks, when I was before this episode, I was just doing some research, and like I know Taylor Stack. Like I'm having Sydney on the episode pretty soon. Like quite a few people I like either adjacently or know on that team. I was like, damn, dude. Like you guys also have Roberto Di Lorenzi. You got Anthony Felber now. Like even the Euro side is crazy. Like how many people have joined the team. So it's pretty cool. So I'd say like I just love seeing a brand from the sub ultra side like make significant investment into those types of athletes, just because I don't know, I feel like in some instances like I don't want to say it's easier for an ultra athlete to get noticed and get picked up by a brand, but let's say you go get top 3 at like a golden ticket race, right?
Yeah.
Where it's much easier to go get signed by Ultra Hoka, but if you can go top 5 at like a significantly more competitive deep sub ultra race. And I know that might be a little like I raise some eyebrows, but like nobody will even know your name, which sucks. So
no, I think that's totally fair. I think it is the feeder system in the US is certainly easier to get. I think the sub ultra is deeper. I think it is. And I think it's cool because you can also race all the time. I think from a marketing perspective, if you're a brand, which after over a few years will influence the whole like sport and like just setting of the sport in the US. If you sponsored a bunch of, I've talked to Jordan a bunch about this, and this was initially what I was like kind of signing on about. Was like, look, like this is the stuff that's cool. You can race all the time. You can have a bad race and you can race the next weekend. But if you have a bad race for 100-miler, you're not racing again for months. You shouldn't. You get so much more out of the athlete because you can race all the time. You can, I don't know. I think it makes more sense to, if you had a stable of athletes, to have more sub ultra than ultra. Yeah, I'm pumped on it. I think it makes sense for the sport. Yeah. And I think it'll be how the whole thing grows, because there's obviously like an obvious next step. If you're in sub ultra, you're like, why don't I try a 50K? And then you're like, you know what, that went okay. Why don't I do a 100K? Like I think it supports the sport and its longevity as well.
No, for sure. Not to double back fully, and then we'll start winding down with questions pretty soon. But like the one last one I have for you on like the Brooks conversation was, especially coming from the Northeast, was it harder to start that conversation for someone like yourself, or was it like, did it take like, what was that process? Obviously you don't have to give away anything. That's too much information, but I'm just curious to say, like, how much harder was it coming from the Northeast? Because I know it's not easy to start those conversations.
Yeah. They pursued me. I have some Brooks connections. Like I did live in Seattle for like 10 months. I knew Talon, who was on the team at that point. And like in high school, I got invited to that like Brooks PR meet they do for like the, handful of like high school students. So I wasn't like unfamiliar with Brooks for sure. So yeah, I don't know. They reached out to me. I'd been talking with Solomon at that point. I'd gone to a like Solomon like trail camp thing that they did for like kind of budding trail athletes, I guess. And with like Kieran, you know all the boys, like Kieran, Brian Whitfield, and Jacob Dewey.
Yep.
So yeah, it kind of just like fell in with Brooks. And I've always liked them because there was growing up, there was a guy a handful of years older than me from Bangor, Maine, who I know, Riley Masters, and he ran for Brooks when I was like in high school and college. So I always had like a positive affiliation with them, and guys like Garrett Heath, just super studs back in the day, and now he's.
Did you beat him at Loon? I'm sure. Did you get the chance to race him at Loon? Or was yeah.
I'd beaten him in the last track race he was in with me as well.
Did you?
So I was
very nice.
we did a 5K. But yeah, it's fun.
Sorry, I had to ask. I mean, dude, it's competition. Like, it is what it is. On that topic of competition, I'm curious to see like, what is your like relationship with competition? Like, are you an extremely competitive person?
Yeah.
Okay. I kind of get that sense from you.
I mean, yeah, I really like competition. I do miss the track stuff where it's just really intense. The trail stuff just isn't as intense, because even the short races, like I think that Canada race I did was 50 minutes. It still takes a while. I miss track stuff where you're in a 1500 prelim and the race is, barely, it's never going to be 4 minutes, and or 1,000-meter prelim, and you have to be top 2 to go to the next round. Like, I love that kind of stuff. Because for me, there's no thinking involved. It's just like, get it done. I really like that. I can't say just do it.
Oh, I didn't even catch that I said that. Shit.
So yeah, that stuff I really enjoy. I've started really getting my head around, like I've had to totally relearn competition, because I'm very high strung. I really like, even on the track, I wasn't a 10K guy. I was like 1,000 meter to like 5,000 meter guy. And so that was also due whatever. My personality is much more that way. And so even at stuff like these shorter trail races, I have to rewire stuff.
Interesting.
We were on this. Okay, so Canada. We've talked about Remy a bunch. The Canada champs. We were on the starting line. Remy and I both have like the little like heart rate monitor on our arms, and so we both look down, like our watch is up, and so you have your heart rate up. You're about to start the watch, about to start the race. I'm so like switched on and like amped up. My heart rate was like 135 standing on the start line,
Jesus
and
Christ.
Remy's was 80. Like it's also like he's much more chill than me. Like there's like a lot of differences, but I think that kind of illustrates like some of the point. I think if I want to be able to do these longer, 2 to 4 hour races, I need to like almost rewire some like nervous system stuff. Yeah, that's been a challenge for me. I think the only thing that so far has been kind of a challenge on the trails has just been cramping. Still not entirely sure what it is, but I've struggled with it at a ton of races now.
Interesting.
It's certainly exacerbated by certain things, but I think partially that's also like a nervous system thing. You're like too amped, like need to be more chilled. But I don't know, like if I hadn't have cramped and had stuff go wrong, I don't see why I don't win that Thailand race. I spent like enough time not moving in the race to be the gap between me and the winner. And then like you're trying to run while your legs are just cramping like everything, and you like can't feel like you can't move. So I wonder if there's some relation there, but that might be a stretch.
That's interesting. Have you like, I don't know, because the first thing I think of cramping, like you automatically think, oh, nutrition, like electrolytes, water, like water tests and all that stuff, like
possible it's possible it's just straight up water. I've done now like just carrying salt tabs and just ripping salt tabs, and it hasn't done anything.
So that could be nervous system, dude. That's interesting. Like
that's my like theory currently. I think that at least has a non 0% chance effect. Non 0% effect. Yeah.
Wow. Holy shit, dude. That's crazy.
I don't know.
Well, I hope you get that one figured out. I'm sure you will over the next few years. Dude, I want to start winding down now. I don't want to take all your evening. I want to get to just the ending questions. I'm very curious to see who inspires you.
Okay. Within sport, out of sport, I guess that's probably why good questions more open. Yeah, I think at least within trail, who's providing like a cool pathway forward. Jack Kenzel. I think he does such a cool job of being doing cool stuff that he's really excited by and like doing it right. And I think some of his approach has just not been muddled by like some of the stuff I feel like has gotten in the way for me. Where you like, I grew up. I mean, I think he probably did cross country or something in high school, but like, I think he was awful. I think he was. And so I think like you don't go through high school and college and you like have all these like many years long learning processes of like right and wrong and what you do and how you don't do things. And I think a lot of the times those have kind of gone in the way for me, being too rigid with some stuff, whereas Jack is just like able to approach things from a different angle and really get things done. And I think he's one of the best people in the mountain space period. And like Jim was out here for a little while this summer and like got to run with him a handful of times and just hang out with him and talk with him, and he was just great. Like he's just so excited by it all and like just so into it.
Interesting.
I think those are the people I'm really like inspired by, that are just so freaking excited by it and just like love the sport and like I've talked with Jack so many times about like the dumbest stuff. Like talked about trying to do workouts up at altitude, and he's like, "How would you get the most like out of this?" And so he's like, putting like ice on his hands between reps to like, like use Palmer cooling to like see if he gets more out of the workout that way because he's just trying to get like quality. And then we're like, like the conversation completely derails, and then we're talking about like it would be unbelievably cool to be at altitude because you're only trying to get like the work done. You could be at altitude, you could bring in an oxygen tank, be like on supplemental oxygen on the like, Stairmaster just because you're at altitude, and you could get like this insane quality of workout in. Like, just like stuff but like
I love these covers, dude. You need to have a podcast with him just to
no, that would not be allowed to be online very long. Yeah, I don't know. I talk with Jack all the time, and I love the like. He just gets so into it, and then it's like just the amount of energy and time and thought that goes towards it all, without having it get in the way of things. Maybe it does. Maybe it's like I'm holding him on a pedestal a bit here, but
do you think with Jack? And I don't expect you to speak for him. I'm trying to get him on. I need to get him on. No, I'm just so curious. Is it like the Navy SEAL in him that's like just like the psycho that like has to control every variable and like has everything planned out? And I mean psycho in like the most like
yeah, for sure.
It's the biggest compliment possible because like I just know like I've like met a couple SEALs in my day, and like these dudes are like so attentive to detail. Like I've never in my life seen people so attentive to detail. And Jack just, I don't know. I've never met him. I just adjacently have listened to podcasts with him in it. And he just seems like someone that literally covers every freaking variable.
In some ways. And then in others, no. Like at Trofeo Kima, I had to give him my shirt because he didn't have like, he needed like a lightweight, like short sleeve shirt. And so it's like, it's like a funny mixture of things. And I don't know. I think it's probably like most things, probably nature and nurture. I do think the sport at the highest end really selects for like a certain level of neuroticism. Mm-hmm. And I made some joke because Jack and Anna are, living out of a van right now in Europe and like going after these cool ski objectives. And I was just saying like, how is it being in a van with like two super neurotic people? Like, what is this going on? Yeah, I think
you fly on the wall.
Yeah. But I mean, Jim is no different. Jim, can
Jim's
break
quieter though, isn't he? Like I've never met him either. I've just heard like I know a lot of people that know him, and everybody has told me like he's I don't know. Like, I feel like unless people like really, really know him, he comes across as a very quieter guy, like maybe a little more unassuming. Is that what you took away from that, or was it just more?
Yeah, I think the public deal is more that way. But I think because he did a pod with Finn out at like Broken Arrow. I mean, yeah, after Broken Arrow, before like Western States, I believe. Is that wrong?
No, I think you're right. And he got talking. He was talking a little bit, or maybe it was after Western States.
But I believe that he did that pod out at Palisades with Finn, and I think afterwards stayed around for hours just talking.
Really?
I mean, yeah, he loves it. You don't get to be that good without like being
you have to be obsessed. Oh yeah,
complete nut about it. Yeah. And yeah, it was super cool with him out here talking about things because you can totally tell like where in his career he's at because he was just totally fascinated by this concept of like endurance and like figuring out how to handle shitty weather. Like he was harping on about a bunch of these things like the Euros do that the US doesn't get right, that like all of these things that he was just like clearly just were like dominating his like mind. It's just because he's like, that's what he's thinking. He's like, this is what I need to be doing to get better.
Wow.
Like identifying, and Jack will do the same thing. Like, we're always talking about the same thing.
The interesting thing about Jim is that, dude, it's just the crazy longevity. Like, I think most of the people, like you see, like Mario Mendoza's on his way out. Like I think he's leaving the team this year. He just like wrote a big thing, and like a lot of the guys that Jim came into Tim Tollefson's on. I wouldn't say the back end, but like I think he's probably close to the transition point where he'll probably move on and go to obviously I don't want to speak for him, but like close to the point where he's going to go be race director, you know, and I think that might be his thing. But like, you see the class that Jim came in with, it's maybe just him and Zach around that era that are like still left.
Yeah, but like you could put Zach into the same boat. Zach's
durable, dude. Like Zach
is very durable.
Yeah.
But I do think like that hyper attention to detail on stuff and really caring. Like, I mean, Jim, I think has been fueling at a really high rate much longer than has been popular.
Yes.
Like he's kind of been identifying like the next step for a while. And I think he probably got lucky on that specific aspect, right? Because I think if he was training how he was before with, you know, fueling styles of old, I think maybe that is a huge hit to your longevity.
Yeah.
Or maybe not. Maybe Jim's longevity is truly only due to like him being incredibly obsessed.
Could be obsessed, genetics, you know, there's a lot. I mean, there's so much that goes into it too. The other thing too, like, dude, is I know Jim hasn't broken the curse yet of actually beating Killian. If Killian goes to Western States this year, and if Jim beats him, like that would just like, that's the cherry on top of the proverbial like Sunday for his career. Like just at that point, it's like, holy shit, you did it. Like, even though the fact that he's already been able to win Western States 5 times and win UTMB, like he hasn't gotten that signature win over Killian yet, like that. Just as a fan, I just would love to see that happen. I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, how awesome too. Like, because I mean, Killian's probably more obsessed than both Jim and Jack together.
Yeah, it's possible. I don't know anything about him. Yeah.
Really? Yeah, I mean, Killian has these spreadsheets he's made of like the world, like the all-time greatest like ascent efforts made, and it's like really is incredibly complex like spreadsheets with like tons and tons of performances on it. Like Killian's
I was astonished by the training that he put out this past year. Did you see that write up that he put out? I think it was right after Series and All. Yeah. And dude, like 5 hours a day of aerobic, like in the winter. I think that was it, like his baseline for that. And then he would do like some like progression run on Saturday on the treadmill. Like it was just interesting to see like what he was doing and then how he was narrowing it down to get more specific. But like he's a freak, dude. Like interesting guy, interesting carrot.
And I think the part about him that I think is probably even weirder is how much of a student of the sport he is too.
Yeah.
Like, like all those guys.
Yeah.
I think that's just really a desire to be better for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting too. I mean, dude, you're so young. So like, I don't know. And as you meet these people that are literally giants in the sport, I feel like there's just so many opportunities to like take your information and what you've learned already, and then like take little tidbits from other folks, you know, and kind of apply all those little things, which is pretty dope, you know?
Yeah.
And plus you're friends with Jack. So, you know, it's interesting.
No, I think Jack is, I mean, obviously there's like he's a bit brash or whatever, but he also is just, I think we're probably similar where it's like, well, he'll be like DMing someone for like advice because they've done the route and then they like don't answer him and he's like pissed. He's like, oh, I fucking hate this guy. And then like he responds 2 days later and Jack's like, oh my God, this guy's the best. Like, I think that stuff's funny. Yeah, no, it'll be interesting to see what happens with, I'm hoping Jack can kind of come around into some of these like actual races. Cause stuff like his time on the Prezi, some of the stuff he's done that way, I think are extremely fast. And I don't know how many people in the US could go think about challenging it. So I would love honestly both to see, you know, Jim go towards some FKT projects kind of like he used to do. And then Jack kind of go towards some racing. I would just love to see, you know, a bit of those two worlds collide a bit.
I do. I feel like, and you know, I mean, Jack on the racing scene, like I think he blew a lot of like a lot of people were like super impressed. He blew some minds this year. Like Kima, he had a fantastic race. There was a few other races in Europe. Yeah.
Kima was also a little too bad because like from perspective, like Finley is unbelievably good and doesn't get the recognition. But you talk to any like Any guys who live and train out there, they're like, oh my God, Finley is unbelievably good from 10K up in like fell racing and stuff. These certain things, like he's a stud. And so I think that result, you could almost be like, oh, he got beat by this Finley guy. Like, that's not the same as like Killian.
Jim or Killian.
Yeah,
Exactly.
but
Yeah.
they were both well under Killian's time on a course that all the good guys have gone and done. So yeah.
Yeah. Now, dude, Jack's world class, man. Like I'm excited for what he's able to do and what he like starts to plan for in the future. And obviously Jim as well. Like as far as Jack goes though, like I think the world is just curious to see like what he continues to do on the racing side, just because like he was he had some aversion to it. Now he's doing it. Like it's cool. So yeah.
I kind of don't love the ski records, just because I feel like the ski, just like day to day, the snow could give you like a 20% delta.
Yeah.
So I wish he would come and do like, I really wanted to send a resume in for the world's team.
Oh, dude, there you go.
I think he would do fantastically well at the long race.
You think the long one, or like, yeah, I was going to, dude, he could probably compete at like the 42K. Like, I think there's,
but I think he's better at the longer stuff.
Yeah.
The one race he did in Europe this summer was, I think, a bit too short for him, a bit too quick. The other race, Gire de Mont. And I think he needs it to be a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And the Pyrenees is supposed to be really technical. So something like that, I think he would.
Dude, you got to convince him. Tell him to send in a resume.
I know.
Put that out in the world.
But I don't know if the selection team would honestly like value the FKT results.
That's true. That's true. So, who is the selection? It's Tom Hooper and company, right? Like, who else is part of that selection team? How does that work?
Tom Hooper, Paul Kirsch.
It is Kirsch. Okay.
I think like Max King's on there. I think it's like a small little committee.
Okay.
I think Nancy Hobbs obviously has to be on there.
That would make sense. Okay.
Yeah. And it's an interesting group that like everyone's going to have their own bias. And I think if you can't factor in FKTs, it can limit who you could have on the team. And I think if you want to send a team that is your best chance of
who's going to win on a world stage, right? Not just who wins this particular race in America, but who's going to, be the best on this type of terrain.
Yeah. So I think it's been interesting on some of that stuff, how it'll be fun to see the like whole process have to be reformed as time goes on, because it'll be more and more important. It'll be under more scrutiny as time goes on. Like, you have to have the race be similar to the world's event, and it'll be cool to see that stuff happen.
Yeah, no, for sure. All right, one last question, because I am so curious. Like, do you want this to become an Olympic sport? Like, what's your take on that? Or do you think just Worlds is the better way for us to express ourselves in the sport?
I don't think I care if it's an Olympic sport. I mean, obviously the Olympics is like the pinnacle of athletics. And I think that would be really cool, but I don't know. The skimo stuff in the Olympics looks kind of whack to me. It looks really contrived. I don't think that's what it should be about. Even the race in Austria at Worlds for the classic felt incredibly contrived. It did not feel like mountain world stuff.
Wait, was the classic the section where there was like, I don't know, there was like rocks in the middle of the road or some shit like that?
Yeah.
What the
hell
like was that?
Running through Innsbruck, like through a roadway with a fake trail put in. And maybe that's cool, but you got to do a better job than that, I think. And so much of it was road. I don't think that's super cool. I think that event lended itself better to the short and long trail races.
Yep.
Were unbelievably cool, I thought. But you've got to have the classic. You can totally build out a really cool classic event. I think the classic race is the hardest one. The classic or vertical are the harder ones to like be top 5 or be on the podium. And so they should be mountain events. Yeah.
No, I agree, dude. I think that's a good place to cut it. until we do round 2, Dan Kurtz, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It was
Thanks, man.
awesome competition, dude. Awesome conversation. It's Monday. It's been a long day. I've been up since 4. I work East Coast hours, so it's really fun. Let me tell you. Yeah, man. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate it. It was a great conversation, and I'm excited to talk to you about some stuff offline. So
Cool. Yeah.
what'd you guys think? Oh man, that was so much fun. Thanks, Dan, for coming on. Really fun having a chat. Stoked for his 2025 season. I can't wait to see this guy make back world's teams, and just continue to have just an insane career in our sport. It's going to be fun to see where his career takes him. Guys, before you get going, hop on Instagram. Dan's a fun follow. He's got some a couple really crazy reels on there. One in particular of I don't know if it was Talon or who it was, almost falling off a cliff. Definitely kind of crazy. I think it had I forget how many million views it had, but it's pretty crazy. It's I'll tell you right now, 16.3 million views. So go be 16.4 and enjoy it. Guys, before you get going, give him a follow. You can find him at Dan Kurtz on Instagram. I think he would appreciate some follows and some love. Send him some words of encouragement. He's got a stacked season he's going to be taking on, so I'm sure he'd love to hear from all of you. Dan's got fans. Pretty cool. Before we get going, guys, do me a solid. If you're on the Front Range this upcoming Saturday, I hope to see you. Come on over to the Colorado Running Company. We're going to be kicking off a run at 8 o'clock in the morning. I'd say probably 8:10. I'm going to wait for some people to filter in. First 20 folks through the door gets a free pair of Cetus socks. Cetus was kind enough to send a whole bunch of socks to me to be able to pass out to all of you. We're going to be talking about some of those Cetus products as well, which I think you guys would get a kick out of. We're going to start our group run, 8:10, 8:15. Out the door, probably back in an hour or two. And then once we're back, we're going to kick off some gear discussion from Ultimate Direction. I'm going to do a fun little demo and some free vest giveaways, courtesy of Ultimate Direction. We're also going to give away some hats, stickers, all kinds of fun stuff. And they're going to be providing some refreshments as well, which are pretty dope. Next, we're going to transition into a couple other gear demos. Nike Trail is going to be there for you guys to demo their shoes as well. There'll be 2 pairs of new Nike shoes dropping that they're going to be demoing. And then we will move into a live podcast with none other than Bailey Kowalczyk, who I'm really excited to finally have on the pod. This is going to be a good one. Get to do it in person, and you guys can all follow along if you happen to be there. This is going to be live on YouTube as well, which is going to be super cool. And hope you guys can make it. Also, if you enjoyed this episode, give us a 5-star rating and review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. That would be dope. Appreciate it. Have a great week, guys.